Hi Team Kelly, here's lesson 310, tenths and hundredths. In this lesson, you will learn how to read and write decimal numbers to the hundredths place. So I wanted to just show you again. So there's place values. On the left of the decimal point, we've got the tens, the ones, then the decimal is and, then we have tenths and hundredths. Okay, cool. In your notebook, make sure you have it dated for today and you have the lesson number and title. And then when you're ready, come on back. Okay, so complete these problems 1 through 6. You're going to want to write in your notebook. When you read number 1, 14 hundredths, what does that look like as a decimal? And do that for those 6. Pause the video. When you think you have them, come on back and we'll take a look. Okay, here they are, 14 hundredths. You've got 0.14. 4 hundredths. You have to have the 4 in the hundredths place. So when I draw this really quickly again, you know that we've got the 4 in the hundredths. If I leave it just like that, then I'm going to be confused. So I have to put a placeholder in the tenths spot, and that's what this is, right? So I can put the 0 over here if I want to, but I don't have to. Either way is correct. And then we've got 4 tenths. So the 4 is in that first spot, the tenths place. Then 400, 40 hundredths, and 40. I hope you have those. If you had trouble with any of those, make sure you're correcting in red pen, or at least crossing off and showing that you had to correct, so I know that I might need to talk to you about that when I look at your notebook. Awesome. Okay, so here's a question for you. How can you use base 10 blocks to show that 4 tenths and 4 hundredths are not equal? How could you use base 10 blocks to show that? Do some drawing in your notebook on how you could prove that those are not equal. Pause this. When you have that done, come back and take a look. Okay, here's my wonderful drawing. I know you're impressed. So 4 hundredths, the hundredths are the little cubes, because I'm always thinking about them so far in this unit as this big grid is the 1, right? So I would have 10 rows all the way across and 10 rows across and 10 columns. These are columns going up and down, and then rows. So we're picturing the flat as the 1. So 4 hundredths, I know if I had this drawing done all the way, that I would have 100 little spots there. So there's 100 spots in that grid if I had it all drawn out. So then if I'm looking at this over here, 4 hundredths, it would be 4 of the little cubes that could fill up the 100 spots over here. So this is 4 out of the 100. So 4 hundredths. And then 4 tenths, I know that's 4 of these longs, and there's 10 of those in this if I had it drawn all the way to scale. So 4 out of the 10, 4 tenths. And you can definitely see that these are not equal. I hope you did something along those lines. Then how about this? How can you use fractions to show that the 4 tenths is not equal to 4 hundredths? Pause it, give it a go, come back and check. So 4 tenths written as a fraction is 4 over 10. The other one, 4 hundredths, is 4 over 100. If I really want to compare them, I want to have them both in tenths or both in hundredths. So pretty easy for me to change 4 tenths into 40 hundredths by knowing 10 times 10 is 100. Whatever you do to the bottom, you gotta do to the top. So 4 times 10 is 40. Now I'm comparing 40 hundredths and 4 hundredths. So clearly they're not equal. Okay, hopefully you had something along those lines in your notebook. So let's move on. So how many hundredths are colored in on this grid? If you look at that, you've got 10 plus another 3. So hopefully you would be telling me there's 13. So if I originally used 13 cubes for this, so imagine this right here is 13 individual little cubes like this, stacked up on that. Is there a way that I could use fewer blocks than those 13 individual little cubes? hopefully you'd tell me yes, I could do 1 long and 3 cubes. So if I've done that, how many tenths would I now have? Well, you can see here we've got 1 10 out of the 10 possible. So I've got 1 10, and how many hundredths? That's this, right? I've got 3 of those. So a decimal name for this would be 1 in the tenth spot, 3 in the hundredths, so 13 hundredths. And when I say 13 hundredths, when I'm asked how do I write this as a fraction, 13 hundredths. Hopefully you can see that as well. We're going to transfer that information into your math journal. In your math journal you have this page right here, so please get that open, and you're going to write that first thing on all the things we just talked about on that first line. So we said we had 13 hundredths, and that means we have 1 tenth and 3 hundredths. That's written as this, and then as a fraction it is 13 over 100. Make sure you get that in your math journal, and when you get that done, go ahead and come on back. So now we're going to do another problem. We're going to be writing this in our math journal as well, so the answers can go in your math journal for this problem on that same grid we were just on. So this time I'm asking you to look at this drawing. Picture those as each little cube is being filled in there, okay? So how many hundredths are covered on the grid? Well, if you count them, you will see that there are 7. Go ahead and use that color. 7 hundredths, because there's 7 little cubes that could be filled in. Is there a way to use fewer blocks? No, because I don't have enough to make a tenth, so I can't exchange those for anything yet, right? I can't trade them in. So how many tenths are there? Well, none, right? I don't have any longs being used. And how many hundredths? We said there's 7. So what's the decimal name for this number? Hopefully you're going to tell me it would be, because I want the 7 in the hundredths place, I have to put a place value holder of 0 in the tenths, because I don't have any tenths. So that's what it looks like as a fraction, and as a decimal, and as a fraction, 7 hundredths. Okay, hopefully you're on board. This is now written on the page in your math journal, and we'll go on. So one more of these. You're going to go ahead and try and solve it, and then I will put the answers in. So you pause it, and when you're ready, come back. Okay, so how many hundredths are covered? Hopefully you see that there's 20. 2 full ones. Are there a way to use fewer blocks? Well, yeah, I could do 2 longs for this, right? Instead of 20 little cubes, I could use 2 longs. How many tenths are there? 2. Hundredths? None left over, right? I don't have any down here little cubes being left. What's the decimal name for this? Well, it's 2 in the tenths, right? I could put this 0 here if I want to, and I could write the fraction in as this 2 tenths or 20 hundredths. I'm okay either way. Those mean the same thing. Hopefully you get that. That's a 0 there. Oof, it's a struggle bus, but it is a 0. Hopefully you see that. Okay, good. So that's what we then have written in on our chart in our math journal. Now I did fill in just a few other things on a few more lines, and I'd like you, based on what I'm telling you, see if you can fill in the rest of the blanks along each row. So if I'm telling you you have 45 hundredths, how many tenths would that be? How many hundredths? What would it look like as a decimal? What would it look like as a fraction? Follow the pattern that we've just done up here for you. Same thing here. fill it all in, fill it all in, fill it all in. And we're only going to do those. If you wanted to give yourself some others down below, you're welcome to, but it's okay to leave those blank as well. I think you're going to get the point from that work. And once you have that page done, you are good for tonight. Great job, and I will check these over in the morning when you put them out for me. Have a good night.